An entitled couple make my life a living nightmare as I have the misfortune of serving them for our Sunday rush. But after watching them bicker and scream at me about their food, as well as making everybody in the restaurant uncomfortable, this entitled couple top it all off by not even tipping me. And honestly, at this point, I am so done with people like this at my job. Here's what happened. Okay, so this story happens months ago on a Sunday, and this is when we had a church crowd in our restaurant. This couple sat in my section and immediately asked for plastic utensils and that their drinks should be in to-go cups. Now, I already knew that they were that kind of customer, but I still carried on like normal. Now, let me just tell you, they were as high maintenance as you could possibly get. They requested that their waffles be nice and light, but their bacon couldn't be too crispy. They wanted their eggs light but not too runny, as well as several other specific instructions. So I called in their order and I started making their waffles. But before anything else could get started, one of the servers told me that table 20 wants to talk to me. And as you might guess it, it's the couple in question. Now, at this point, I was wondering why on earth they would even want to talk to me. Well, they wanted to know if one of the grill cooks who usually makes their food is in the restaurant. And by the way, these are not regular customers. They didn't even know the cook's name, only a vague description. Well, I told them that the grill cook in question is off on weekends, but that our current cook and manager can cook without any issues. But apparently that wasn't good enough because they demanded to have their cook. I repeated what I just said and then apologized and walked away from them. Because honestly, like, what do they expect me to do? Call the grill cook to come in on her day off and cook for that one table only? I mean, that is absolutely not gonna happen. So fast forward to about 15 minutes later, and as I'm giving them their food, they immediately started picking at their food like Gordon Ramsay, and I already knew that they were gonna find something to complain about. So I just stuck around and watched. But honestly, I wish I didn't. They said that the toast is too soggy and that the eggs are too runny. Also, the waffles are too dark, and my favorite complaint is that the grits were too gritty. Now, perhaps the eggs are too runny from the extra cheese, and the toast might be soggy from the butter, and sure, the waffles are golden instead of pasty like Edward Cullen. But the grits being too gritty? Like, are these people being real right now? So, as you can probably guess, they wanted to speak to the manager. I told them it's gonna be a minute because he's on the grill and we're in the middle of a rush. The entitled Karen of this couple then shouted out that they are not gonna pay for any of this garbage. Well, when she shouted that out, that got the manager's attention, and he went to the table to talk to them real quick. Now, there was no convincing them to allow the kitchen to remake their food, so the manager gave them a discount and told me that everything is fine. Yeah, right, nothing's fine about these people. They are still nitpicking and just complain about how long it took their food to be ready, as well as how loud it is in the restaurant, despite the fact that we're in the middle of a rush. Now, at this point, I was just done with them, and I just dropped off their discounted check and I just walked away. I didn't even bother to follow up with them. I just wanted them to leave so I can turn the table for the next party. And of course, the icing on top of everything, they didn't even leave me a tip. But honestly, I could care less, as long as they leave and hopefully never come back. Like, how in the world do you go to church and then pull up to my job with that kind of attitude? I mean, don't they teach you anything at church? Perhaps I should let your pastor know how you've been acting after church and make them use you as an example for next week's sermon, because honestly, I'm just so done with people like this. Wow, that honestly is so annoying, and I can only imagine how frustrating that is, especially on a Sunday. Like, it's already super busy on Sunday and everybody's coming out of church and they want something to eat, and then you have this couple coming in here and acting like complete fools. Like, this kind of entitlement to just cause problems for like no reason, it really is just uncalled for and just not fair for the server. Like, they're literally getting the blunt end of the stick for something that is not their fault. And I'm also willing to bet that their food was just fine. I'm sure there was nothing actually wrong with it, and they were just acting super entitled because their favorite cook wasn't at the restaurant. So honestly, I think you handled it as well as you possibly could, despite the fact that these people didn't even tip you at the end. But for the sake of your sanity, as well as everybody else's at the restaurant, I truly hope those people never come back. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My family absolutely hates my boyfriend, and they are actively trying to convince me to break up with him. But even though I love him and I really care about him a lot, I still feel so torn between my family and my boyfriend. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with this guy for about 9 months, but we've only been dating for about 3 months officially. And trust me when I say this, but my family absolutely hates him. One of the main factors is that he is living with his mom and best friend. He pays rent to his mother and works a minimum wage job. He has 1 DUI and is working on probation. He does work and pay his bills, but my family doesn't believe that we're on the same path. And this is because I have a degree and I'm working a corporate job. I really do love him, and he has been very kind to me with some fights here and there, and I think that his family dynamic is a bit different than my family. I told my mom that money isn't everything to me, and we could make ends meet, but she has been divorced twice, and told me that she doesn't want me to go down that road. She even keeps trying to find guys for me to talk to while I am still in this relationship. They talk down to him a lot, calling him fat and ugly behind behind his back, it's overall just low blows. The only time I can ever think of them being happy in my relationship was when I dated people that they chose for me, like a family friend or something like that. It's always been farmer dudes and Texas guys. It's never really been my type, and those relationships have always failed. My mom would even blame me for the relationship failing when it was forced upon me. But when it comes to all the relationships that I have ever wanted, they always made fun of them in some kind of way. But with this guy, he does have a DUI and doesn't really have any kind of life goals. I don't know if my mom is projecting or if she has a right to be concerned. I am clouded by love right now, and I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, so from my point of view, and I don't want to offend you or anything like that, but this guy doesn't sound like a catch. He doesn't sound like somebody I would ever sacrifice portions of my life just to be with. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you don't love the guy, and it does sound like you have a good relationship with him, but this guy just doesn't sound responsible at all. The fact that he has a DUI is more than enough reason for me to be like, wait a second, I don't know if I want to be with this guy, because that is unbelievably reckless, and there is hardly any excuse for that, other than him just being neglectful in the worst possible way. And I don't know about you, but that just does not settle well with me. He also has no career ambitions or life goals, and it seems like he's really content working minimum wage, which again, there's nothing wrong with that, but you would think that your boyfriend would want to make more money. Minimum wage as an adult is not workable. You cannot make a living doing that, and honestly, it just doesn't work. So truly, I wish you the best of luck in figuring this out, because from the outside looking in, this guy does not sound like a winner. My mom changed her mind at the last second, not allowing me and my boyfriend to sleep in the guest bedroom that we had been planning on staying in. And now, for the sake of my own sanity during this family get-together, I'm considering getting a hotel room just so I can have some peace and quiet, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I moved 600 kilometers away from my family for my master's degree a few months ago. In February, my family plans a get-together, and my sister and I are staying with my family for about 10 days, and my mom invited her friends over for about 5 of those days, with me also planning on bringing my boyfriend. Well, about 2 weeks ago, my mom called me and we discussed the sleeping arrangements for the get-together. My sister will be staying with her boyfriend since he lives not far away from my parents' house, and so I asked if my boyfriend and I could sleep in the guest room. My parents' house isn't too big, and the guest room in the attic is the only possibility where you have your own bathroom and a little bit of privacy when the house is full of people. My mom agreed and said that she will ask her friend to stay in a hotel nearby during the time of her visit. I was glad about that since I have university stuff to do, and I need some quiet space to work on it during my visit. Now, fast forward to yesterday, and my mom informed me that her friend doesn't want to stay in a hotel, so she, the friend, will sleep in the guest bedroom. Now, my sister and I are supposed to sleep in my sister's old room all the way up until her friend leaves. Then we're supposed to clean up after her friend, change the bed sheets and get it tidy just so we can sleep in the guest bedroom for the rest of our stay. The thing is, my sister's old room is right next to our parents' bedroom. My parents snore a lot, and my father is a very light sleeper and gets super grumpy whenever he's woken up by any noise. My boyfriend and I wanted to visit some friends during our stay, as well as going to some parties while we're there, so we would definitely be coming home late some nights. So we would have to be practically noiseless while getting ready for bed these nights. Also, we would have to share a bathroom with my parents for almost a week, and I don't want to put my boyfriend in this position. My sister's room also doesn't have a proper desk where I could work on, and I would have no quiet space for working on my university stuff because it's literally in the middle of the house. I was honestly a little flabbergasted when my mom told me that, because we had agreed on us sleeping in the guest bedroom before. I reminded her of what we discussed, and she basically shrugged and just said, "Oh, it's just a few days." I'm just so tired of putting up with her garbage, because that's not the first time that she's done something like that. I'm almost always the first person that has to budge when she's making plans, and she doesn't even seem to recognize that. I was already thinking about booking a hotel room for the duration of her friend's visit, though I know if I did, my family would throw a temper tantrum about me being unreasonable and spoiled, and would continually be asking me why I couldn't sleep in my sister's room. Also, a hotel room would be quite pricey. On the other hand, I'm super angry because my mom expects me to budge again, as well as expecting me to clean up after her friend. So honestly, where do I go from here? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. In my opinion, it really sounds like your mom has already made her decision, and it really sounds like she does not want to prioritize you in the slightest. And that really is not fair, because she's really putting you in a weird position. Now, if you didn't have the university work that you needed to get done, then I would say just sleep in the sister's bedroom and just kind of deal with it. But because you need a quiet space to get stuff done, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get the hotel room. Like, if I was in your shoes, that would be my main excuse. If anybody even began to complain about me, I would just be like, look, I've got to get stuff done for college. This house is way too noisy. I can't get this done in this setting. And that's honestly all you need to say to these people. And you know what? If they want to throw a temper tantrum, then honestly let them. You've got a lot of stuff you need to do. And it sounds like your sister's bedroom is not going to be an accommodation you can even consider. So hopefully you can figure out a solution that works best for you specifically, because your mom definitely made her choice, and I think it's time that you make yours. My entitled friends failed to show up when it counted, and instead of visiting me when I was in the hospital, they chose to stay home, all because they were too drunk to visit me in the first place. So I decided to cut them out of my life, and honestly, that's the best decision I've ever made in my life. Here's what happened. About 10 years ago, I broke my ankle in a pothole, helping my then best friend move out of our apartment. 3 months after the break, doctors discovered that I had a bone infection, and I would possibly need my leg amputated. At the hospital for the infection, I was scared and really needed my friends. I asked my childhood girlfriends to please visit me as I was going into surgery every other day, and I was terrified I'd wake up from surgery without my leg. I had been in the hospital for over a week, and only a few college friends came to visit, and some of them even without me asking. All of my childhood friends planned to visit together, but when the day came along, one by one, I received texts from each of them bailing because they didn't feel well. They all went out partying the night before, they got too drunk and were too hungover to visit me. You see, the reason my best friend moved out was because she and the others prioritized partying, doing substances, sleeping around with random dudes, and were just overall very selfish human beings. I had moved on from the partying lifestyle, and whenever I suggested that we do other activities, they would just say no. Besides that, my best friend was a terrible roommate. She never paid rent on time, she let my cat out of the apartment, and she was just an overall slob. So my relationship with her and the others had become very rocky. I had talked with them before my ankle break about how sad I was with our relationship, and they all said that they'd try harder. Then came my injury and they all just bailed on me. Well, as a result, I cut ties with all of them. They begged me to forgive them, and our mutual friends who live out of state even begged me to forgive them. They would say stuff like, "You've been friends since preschool, can't you just let it go?" But I thought to myself, no, I can't. This is the last straw. For several years, I would see them at mutual friends' weddings and high school reunions, and I tried to just remain pleasant. My favorite thing to do is be withholding when they try asking how I am, as well as give me compliments and all this other stuff, but I would refuse to reciprocate. You could see the desperation in their eyes that they want me to love them again. Even one of the girls' mothers admitted to how stupid their daughter treated me, so I guess I did find some kind of validation after all. Now, some of our mutual friends are finally realizing how toxic these women are, and they are finally cutting ties as well. But I just smile and think to myself, well, I told you so. Just because you've known someone since you were children, it does not mean you need them in your life as an adult. So I've learned to keep the ones that show up in the worst of times, because I would much rather have quality over quantity. That is so true, and that is such a good life lesson to learn. Seriously, all these friends had to do was show up at the hospital, and literally there wouldn't be a problem in the slightest. But instead, they got way too drunk and they ruined it for everybody. Not only for the original poster, but also for themselves. And you know what? It takes a lot of guts to stand up like that and cut these people off. Like, I'm convinced that the original poster definitely stood alone, and they literally had to do that on their own with nobody else to support them. So truly good for them for taking a stand and not let these toxic friends take advantage of their friendship ever again. My boyfriend wants to make a career switch that could force me to drop out of college, and after waiting 10 years just to even start my degree, I'm now at such a crossroads as I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I have been together since we were 15 and 17 years old. We had our first child shortly thereafter, and since then we've had 2 more children. Ever since the first child, he asked me to stay at home so he could work, and I agreed. On top of him working, I was a nanny to his sister's kids, who were living with grandma for 10 years while mom was in and out of jail. I had them about 13 hours a day, 5 days a week, and the income from that brought in enough money to pay our mortgage. Well, over the last 13 years, I've had a few odd jobs that I attempted to work, but every time something would happen with his job, whether it be a career change or him having to work more overtime, it always resulted in me having to go home and watch the kids because he couldn't get off and relieve the sitter, so I would inevitably have to resign. But I did take this in stride because he was the one that brought in the larger income, despite the fact that these resignations and years of no job history, other than being a family nanny, has made me virtually useless to the workforce on paper. But I held out because he always said that when all 5 kids were in school, I'd be able to go to college. Well, that was this year. All 5 kids went to school, and I pulled from being our niece and nephew's nanny because their mom regained custody this year as well. But the minute I enrolled into school, it seems like all the garbage hit the fan all at once. Before I even started my first day, my boyfriend comes out of nowhere saying that he wants to go to college at the same time as me. His job offers a college program, and at the end of the 2-year program, you would move up and make a few more dollars an hour, and you would still be paid. The problem being was that the pay and hours would be much less than he's already making. So I would have had to start working to supplement the missing income. Now, I begged him not to do it. I have no idea what ignited this for him. We've been together since we were teenagers, and he has never really wanted to go to college, and he already makes well over $100,000 a year. He kept pushing, but eventually his mom and sisters caught wind and forced forced him back down, stating that it's my turn, that I held back to support his career for years, and that he can go to school when I finish. They said that this opportunity of schooling will always be free and available to him, and eventually he let it go. However, he has started back up, but this time he wants to switch to a different company in the same field of work, saying that he'd make more money at this new company. But that is subject to change. He could make more at this company because their incentive is so high, and incentives work like this. The entire company makes 30% of the production rate, so if the company produced $100,000 worth of product, they would receive $30,000, and it would be split and distributed amongst employees. That being said, it's 30% right now, and it could very well drop to 2% or even nothing in the next month or two. If he switches jobs, he'll start at the bottom of the ladder again, doing the grunt work of the mill and making less hourly. Right now, he's in a comfortable position and has a good amount of free time where he can sit in his office and watch movies or sleep. This new position would require him to do 3 times as much labor, all with a chaotic schedule. And since the company is far larger than his current one, it would take him years to move back up to where he is now. He confronted me last night asking why I don't support this, and I told him I just want him to stay put so it doesn't interfere with my schooling. His income and his schedule are just too unpredictable. I mean, honestly, I don't get it. For 13 years, I supported his careers, as well as every other change he's ever made. Even if this meant we went a month without income, while we waited on his first check while we moved. I had taken on extra kids to pull and supplement income, and he frequently changed jobs. My schooling has not interfered with his schedule at all. I still make sure that I'm home early to get the kids off the bus. I get up the earliest daily to make breakfast and get the kids to school. I still make dinner every single day and I pack his lunch. I still do a majority of the household chores, and I'm the one who calls off to take the kids to appointments. I have ensured my schedule has not forced him into any more work. I only go to school when the kids are at school, and the only changes have been the homework that I do when he's home, and I'm just a little bit more tired than usual. All that I'm asking is that he sits still and let me focus on myself. I've waited over a decade so that we could focus on him and the kids, and I have rarely complained. All I want is to finish this degree in 3 years. That way I can have a stable job and help provide. But it seems like he is doing everything he can to put the focus back on himself. All this said, if the incentive at this other company stayed up, he could potentially make more. So should I back down and support this switch for him? Or should I stand my ground and ensure my schooling comes first this time? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your boyfriend is being incredibly selfish right now. You said it best. You have spent the last 10 years helping him out and making sure that his job succeeds in some kind of way. So with that in mind, I don't blame you for stepping up and being like, wait a second, it's definitely my turn. Because it is your turn. There's no reason why he can't just stay the course for a few more years, and then if he really wants to go back to school, then he can do that. But it kind of feels like he's only doing this because you're doing it right now, instead of him actually wanting to do it in some kind of way. So hopefully this gets worked out, and I really hope you're able to finish your degree. Because right now your boyfriend is being incredibly selfish, and I don't blame you for being upset in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.